What is going on, everybody? It is the one, the only Q here from Retro Q Gaming, and naturally, we are back. It is the weekend, so it is time to kick off the shoes, unwind, max and relax, chillax, if you would prefer, with our lovely little weekly episode 73 of our Quack experimental podcast. Now, funnily enough, this is a crazy one. Big news, big stuff, big everything happened during the week. Funnily as well, by the start of this morning, I had 2 sections of notes. Then I went back over the week and put on some extra stuff that I wanted, and now suddenly I have a huge amount of stuff to talk about. Not only that, but the ones we do have to talk about, some of them are fairly big and fairly in-depth. So, let's get right into it, shall we? First off, we're going to talk about the one that everyone is most interested in, the big one, the important one that happened this week with the PlayStation 5 Games Showcase. That's right, the Sony event. Now, we have some many things to talk about here. We'll get the most important thing out of the way straight away. We finally have a release date. Not only that, but we have a price as well. The release date is kind of a bit weird because it's staggered into 2 different sections for different parts of the world. But we have November 12th for the US. Wow, my notes here, I must have just been scribbling them real fast. November 12th, US, Japan, Canada, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea. The reason why I was weird about those notes is I must have somehow just typed Japan and Canada together and still typoed it because I have Japanamada. Yeah, that's great. Good job, Q. Also, the rest of the world, including ourselves here in Ireland, of course, is November 19th, 1 week later. I'm very surprised at that. I mean, New Zealand and South Korea, kind of small. Maybe Australia, again, it's all relative, I guess. But you'd think they'd at least do some parts of Europe on the 12th as well. Now, I'm not saying myself. I'm just saying you think they might have Germany or the UK, just in general, would be a bit of a bigger thing for them. But I guess not. Anyway, of course, the most important thing is $499 for the physical disc-based version and $399 for the digital-only edition. Oh, actually, I should say it's €499 for the digital, for the disc one. And let's try that again, shall we? €499. Jesus Christ, I can't do anything today. €499 for the disc-based version, $399 digital for €399 for the digital edition. My fucking god, let's go. Of course, these prices do somewhat transfer over to America at $499 for the disc version and $399 for the digital version. Of course, because America is weird like that, none of those prices include tax. So if you go into your local game store, wherever it is, with $500 to get that physical disc-based one, yeah, you're going to be shit out of luck. Anyway, we also have a couple of deets, more so about games and release dates and whatnot too. God of War, which I guess you could call it God of War 2, which you really shouldn't because it's like, the 7th mainline God of War entry, something along those lines. It's something to do with Ragnarok, so it'll either be set during Ragnarok or it might be called God of War Ragnarok, coming in 2021 next year. Just interesting things to talk about a little bit later for that too. We also have some Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is a launch game. Final Fantasy 16 was shown off during this as well. It is apparently a console launch exclusive. It's very, very weird and mixed messaging when it comes to all of this, because it did say at the very, very bottom of the screen at the end. Oh, first off, when it opened up, the very start of the showcase, it says the PlayStation 5 is being emulated on a PC, which was absolutely hilarious to me. That's pretty damn funny. But most importantly, it says Final Fantasy 16. And it says console launch exclusive for PS5. It's unconfirmed if it's going to be timed exclusive or coming later. And of course, it's going to be coming to PC. It said it clearly in the trailer. More on that a little bit later. They've also came out with Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, which basically has a bunch of extra visual features, high frame rate mode and all as well. And most importantly to many people out there, or at least fans of the game, playable Virgil DLC. I'm only including it on here because I see a ton of people talking about it like it's a big deal. I have no interest in Devil May Cry myself anymore. It's been dead to me after the second game. But you get the idea. I feel like putting it in there too. Now, there's also another big one out there that many people... It's arguably one of the 2 top important ones here as a launch game. Because let's face it, Spider-Man Miles Morales is going to be a big one too. But we also have Demon's Souls remastered. Or no, you know what? I shouldn't call it that, because it is a complete from the ground up remake of Demon's Souls. Of course, it's done by the masters of Blue Point Games, and it's coming to, this is the key part that we'll talk about, just like with Final Fantasy 16, PlayStation 5, also available on PC. That's right. A lot of salty butthurt there too. And interestingly enough, at the bottom of this one, the text and all, it actually said unavailable on other consoles for a limited time. Does this mean that it's maybe coming to PS4 or Xbox Series L? That's the more interesting one. This also ties in with Final Fantasy 16 that we talked about too, because it did say the launch exclusive and all as well. The wording on it did make it seem like it could potentially come to consoles. But both of these games, Demon's Souls and Final Fantasy 16, did specifically have an asterisk that said also available on PC. Now, there's been massive damage control by everyone after this. Sony fanboys, Sony websites, pretty much everything, where they have claimed that this was an error in both cases. Yeah, you're fooling no one. Giant press X from me, dog. Press X to doubt from me, dog. Everyone knows this is coming to PC. It's clear, it's obvious. A big, high-profile showcase like this, okay? Sony have said it's been put down to human error and user error. A big showcase like this does not have these errors. It's that simple. This thing gets passed through so many different people, reviewed by so many different people. You think something, a big flagship launch title like Demon's Souls, is going to have a giant mistake with specific wording that's not anywhere in the trailer, because the wording is slightly different than some of the other ones, like the Final Fantasy 16 one. You really think that's a human error mistake? That got passed through so many different people, reviewed so many different times, and no one saw it? You're fooling no one. Glorious PC gaming master race, bro. That's it. Final Fantasy 16, of course, well, we all know it's coming to PC anyway. Microsoft would, or well, Sony would not. Square Enix. Why can I not talk today? I guess I'm exhausted after working for fucking 7.5 days in a row. Anyway, Square Enix would not manage to pull that. We could get a timed exclusive, which, like with Final Fantasy VII Remake, we already did. And of course, when that comes out on PC, it's going to be the best version of the game, because, well, Final Fantasy VII Remake was a fucking technical disaster. But, of course, naturally, Sony wanted damage control. They wanted to push the narrative that these are exclusive games, so you have to buy them on PlayStation. You can't wait. You can wait forever and these games won't come out somewhere else. Of course, naturally, the fanboys went and clinged. I guess it's clung. But, yeah, they went by Sony's word, which means nothing. Now, we'll talk about it in another segment. But yes, what we have here is epic damage control. Sony even took down the trailers, chopped it off the end, put on a different ending. And funny enough, this ending still does not confirm exclusivity for both these trailers. The wording has changed, but it still implies other platforms. It does not say not available anywhere else. It does not say exclusive. They have used wording to say that it is only available on PlayStation for a limited time. That's the beauty of it. That's the especially funny thing about it. Now, of course, they've also more about the whole show anyway we have here. So, more accessories have been priced. I don't know why you would buy any first-party Sony accessories. You can buy stuff that's much better. Well, with the exception of maybe a joypad. Anyway, what do we have here? The DualSense controller, $70. Of course, naturally it's dollars, so you're going to want to add tax to all of that. The Pulse 3D wireless headset, which you should not be buying Sony for audio in 2020. Anyway, $100/€100. HD camera, $60, €60. Media remote, $30, €30. DualSense charging station, $30, €30. Now, If you think that's bad enough, we also have a huge one of the main huge ones, that's a pretty negative one for Sony's whole show. Because frankly, they started strong for a couple of seconds, then it fell apart fairly quickly. So, Sony have confirmed that on at least first party games anyway, and based on a quick cursory glance around for, well, third party games on other websites and other available places, it seems like we're getting a price increase on games. Sony have confirmed it for first party stuff, but we also have a lot of third party games that are increasing in price. Only on PS5, not on Xbox Series L. Let me give you a couple of examples here. Now, Astro's Playroom is pre-installed on the PS5, so that does not count. Demon's Souls, Blue Point Games and all, $70 ex-tax, 7,900 yen, or €80, that's €80 with tax, in Europe, recommended retail price. Destruction All-Stars from Lucid Games, $70, 7,900 yen, or €80. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, $50, 5,900 yen, or €60. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Edition, we'll talk about what this is now in a second, $70, 7,900 yen, and €80. Now, if you're not real sure what the whole difference between the standard Miles Morales and the Ultimate Edition is, the Ultimate Edition actually comes with a fully remastered version of the original PS4 version of Spider-Man for the PS5. Interestingly enough, this kind of confirms in a way, as well as one or two other things we've seen kind of leaked around the internet, is that Sony don't, as far as we know at least anyway, plan on giving you and offering you upgraded PS5 versions of some of their big first party titles. Maybe they will announce it down the line, maybe they just will by default, but you'd think they'd want to market something like that. But basically it seems like if you own Spider-Man on PS4, you're not getting the PS5 remaster for free. You're just getting the backwards compatible PS4 version. Pretty fucking scummy. But again, that'll come into play a little bit later. But hey, where do Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, God of War, bunch of other stuff, where does that fit in too? Get fucked, Sony. Anyway, back to what we're talking about here. Sackboy: A Big Adventure, $60, 6,900 yen, or €70. And you get the idea. Of course, Sony were only commenting on their first party stuff or stuff that they had control over, so you get the idea. Now, there's also a big problem with so much of all of this too. Naturally, over the last couple of months, we've seen big next-gen games like Ratchet & Clank, Horizon Forbidden West, and, well, I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones that I just can't think of that I don't care about enough off the top of my head. Who knows, maybe Demon's Souls is one as well. But now, many next-gen only games that were being built exclusively for the hardware on the PlayStation 5 from the ground up, we found out to be a lie, a sham, and is completely untrue. Because many of these next-gen only games are now also coming to PS4. That's right, so much for a few weeks ago when Sony said, we believe in generations, we believe in making new console generations and showcasing stuff just for that hardware, making people switch over. And that the fact that they had no intention of backporting their next generation games. We found out that that is all completely lies because now Spider-Man Miles Morales and Horizon Forbidden West are confirmed to be coming to PlayStation 4 on the same day as the PlayStation 5. Therefore, their entire game design on a fundamental level was factoring in the PlayStation 4, which means the PlayStation 5 versions are just running at a little bit higher spec, which means you'll get better frame rates, better resolution, better quality, better loading times, but at the same time, it's just going to be a PS4 game souped up and turned to 11. Big fucking yikes from me, dog. The Sony event, it was done so well in so many ways, and then just so absolutely poorly ever since then. But not only that as well, Sony previously, just like their lies, had always said, oh, don't worry, when we announce the release date and price for the PlayStation 5, you'll have plenty of time to get out and pre-order, plenty of time. There's not going to be an issue with that. Of course, what happens? That show, the one from the other day, was on at 9 p.m. my time. Many of the pre-orders went live within the next couple of hours, or depending on where you were in the world, they went live the following morning. So yeah, that's a pretty big yikes for me, dog. Microsoft even kind of threw it in their face because when they saw how much of a shit show it was and how much Sony lied about it, well, they kind of capitalized on it with their tweets about their pre-orders and their times and dates and availability and whatnot too. And just to add a little bit of insult to injury on all of this situation, there are people all around the world from all many different places, all manner of different places, all the different countries, the different retailers, the different whatever, who pre-ordered or thought they got a pre-order secured anyway. And then we're having stuff maybe cancelled or delayed or said we can't guarantee you this or giving you a different release date or a different delivery date or whatever it was. And then Sony came out and said, hey, we handled this pretty poorly. We're going to maybe make more available pre-orders. We're going to make... So let me guess, you didn't give out the proper pre-orders at the start? Artificial scarcity? Get fucked, Sony. I'm glad I cancelled my PS5 and my Xbox Series L. But in this case, I'm glad I cancelled the PS5. That shit got no games and you're fucking scumbags as a company. Now let's hone in on something we had during the previous little segment that also, let's call it warrants an extra little bit of talking about here, shall we? We got Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Now this is something that I have no interest in personally, but there's some natural bullshit fuckery going on when it comes to all of this as well. So what is Devil May Cry Special Edition? Well, it is a next generation remaster, essentially. It also adds a Virgil DLC, so it's unconfirmed if he's going to have his own separate story or if you can just use him for the main game or whatever. And it includes extra stuff like better graphics, better visuals, better frame rate, high resolution mode, high frame rate mode that can go anywhere between 60 and 120 FPS. It has ray tracing, etc., etc. But Capcom, the makers of Devil May Cry, are suddenly, strangely enough, being extra shitty devs. Now you may be wondering why this is. They're being shitty devs in many, many different ways. So not only are they not offering this as a free upgrade, remember, it's essentially just a remaster, basically. They're not offering this to anyone as a free upgrade on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series L. Now, of course, they are not obligated to do so. Remember, Sony and Microsoft were stupid enough to not make it a forced upgrade mandate, but I'm sure they would have got around and said it's a different game anyway. So, the last generation versions, the Xbox One and the PS4, as well as the PC, have to pay extra to get the Virgil DLC. Now, this Virgil DLC will be released later. It won't be released at the same time. It will be released later for those three platforms. But, just to make it even worse, all the next generation special edition enhancements, ray tracing, well, I guess Virgil will be there in a way, but ray tracing, different graphics, different visuals, different upgrades, as well as a bunch of other stuff, or just even as the special edition anyway, aren't coming to PC for some reason. That's some absolute scumbag shittiness from Capcom. Are they returning to their roots of fucking everyone over and going with whole on-disc DLC? Get fucked, Capcom. Now, I know I meme on this kind of thing a lot, because we all know PC is the best place to play. There is talk, if you will, of Sony money involved here. Now, typically I would be one to decry all of this, because everyone throws around Sony money this, Sony money that, or Microsoft money this, Microsoft money that. Usually it's absolute bullshit. However, there is a little bit of evidence that suggests that this may be true. I'm still not going with it. I'm just saying there's a grain of salt here, maybe even a nugget of truth. Because even though the Devil May Cry Special Edition, which will be available digitally on both new consoles day one, and even though the PlayStation is coming out after the Xbox, the PlayStation version will have ray tracing and one or two other special features available day one. The Xbox Series L, ray tracing will be patched in later. Despite them being very, very similar and being available at the same time. Roughly the same time, at least anyway. This is very, very strange to me. Not to mention that PC is obviously the better platform. It has more capable hardware in every single way. We have faster SSDs. We have better I/O speeds. Hell, we even have better everything when you think about it. And yet Capcom are doing this. Now remember, I do meme about this kind of thing a lot. But in the real side of it, even though this doesn't affect me personally because I don't care about this game, I'm going to use another game as an example. Persona 4 Golden, when that came to PC. Now, of course, the PC version of it is the best version of it. And I do meme on this, as well as many other games, that I love it when games don't come to Switch. For my own personal reason, I love it when they don't. Because it highlights just how fucking irrelevant it is. And I love seeing the fanboys get salty and triggered. So happy. I love it. I love seeing it. But realistically, why wouldn't they put it on there? Or why wouldn't they put it on the PS4? Hell, why wouldn't they even put it on the Xbox One? For stuff like this, I don't understand why they don't. It's just a bit strange to me. And this is just a great case of a developer being shitty. Now, I'm not saying in the case of Persona 4 or even many of the other games, I'm not saying it's just them being shitty. I just don't see why they wouldn't. Especially when, well, basically the PC community has been keeping this game alive for a long, long time. But hey, I don't know. Capcom are going to get fucked. And they're getting backlash over this off a lot of people. Basically, from pretty much everyone except hardcore Sony fanboys, they're getting backlash over this from. I don't expect it to ever change. I don't expect it to be released on there, or maybe it will. Maybe there's a timed exclusive deal that they can't talk about or they're not willing to talk about or whatever. Who knows? But remember, Capcom is a pretty shitty company anyway. Even if they have had a slight redemption run the last couple of years with the likes of Monster Hunter World and Resident Evil 2 Remake. But just remember these things. On-disc DLC, Street Fighter 5, the whole Capcom, what do we call it, GameCube saga. Yeah, they're no angels. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about proper, true next gen. Now, we're not talking Xbox Series S. We're not talking PlayStation 5. We're not talking Xbox Series L. We are talking real, proper, true next generation hardware. We are talking the Nvidia GeForce RTX 3080. It launched just 2 days ago on the Thursday, on the 17th, and woolad did it sell out instantly. But apparently, it's not in the right way it sold out instantly. Because, sure, it was a much hyped graphics card. Everyone wanted one, except for me, because I'm going to wait till next week and get my 3090. That's where the real big boys play. But apparently, because it was in such demand and all, the RTX 3080 was massively, heavily botted by scalpers and all as well. Now, within minutes, many of these went up on eBay, and of course, they're being scalped for extortionate amounts. And frankly, they're not really selling, because people are writing bots, people are making fake accounts and everything, and the eBay prices are getting absolutely trolled. There are prices out there, 8 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. There's even one there that's like 999,999. I know it can go higher, but that's the last time I saw it. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's so good to see all these. And I will say this. One of my friends is also looking to get a 3090. He's very, very shaky in his confidence, in his ability to get a 3090. Not me. I'm 100% confident I can pick up a 3090 straight away right at launch. With the price of the 3090, I have a feeling that it's a lot more prohibitive to people with bots and scalpers and all as well, because there's a difference between spending 700 to 800 euro to pick up a graphics card or two versus 1500 plus. There's a little bit of a difference there anyway. Now, a few people did actually get a proper RTX 3080, the real legitimate people. They are very happy and very, very lucky people. Now, the benchmarks. The benchmarks are out, the benchmarks are real, and we have seen what the deal is, of course. Because as I've always said, remember, if AMD provides you with AMD benchmarks, or Nvidia provides you with Nvidia benchmarks, or Intel provides you with Intel benchmarks, take them with a grain of salt. Wait and get third-party analysis, because you never know what the specifics are. You never know what's being finessed in order to get these numbers to make them look the best. Now, in regards to the 3080, it's not exactly double the performance of the 2080 that they promised. Or was it a 2080 Super? I want to say a 2080. But it's not exactly the double that they promised. But it's a bigger jump than you would usually expect between generations. Typically, generationally jump can be anywhere between maybe 10%, 15%, 20%, or if you're in a good gen, 25%. It's even bigger than that. So Even if it's not the double that they promised in select games. Of course, Doom is a really bad example because of how optimized that is. But you're still getting a very big increase and a very big jump when it comes to that. And of course, in just a few days, my 3090 will double that again, which is going to be beast mode. Thursday already secured off. Just so I can sit here, be ready, and drop that $1,500, $1,600, $1,700, euros even, on pure, unadulterated, top of the line, ray traced, no DLSS, because we roll native, baby, 3090. But hey, remember that Sony aren't the only company that are fucking over people as well, because Microsoft are fucking over people. Specifically, Microsoft are fucking over their own console users. Because, let's face it, there's been a lot of stuff the last couple of, well, I guess you call it 5 years at this point, and it has been an absolute giant woo lad. Okay, let's look at it this way, right? Microsoft, a company which is now known for having no exclusives, well, no console exclusives anyway. This is how they're going. They're making PC exclusive games. That's right, PC exclusives. They are making no console exclusives. Games that you cannot get on a different platform, because you can pick them up on PC or something like that as well. Not only that, but they're making many of their games, I was going to say multi-platform, but many of them console multi-platform. And not to mention Cuphead, for example. Came to Switch a while back. Was on PC from day one, so it was a multi-plat from the get-go, and it just recently came to PS4. Imagine that. But not to mention all of that, and the lies. This is why you don't believe any company, any figurehead of a company, any PR person of a company, anyone in the company at all, or that's trying to sell you anything. Phil Spencer, I'm sure you've seen the memes out there with his massive giant nose. Just like, what's his name? Jim Ryan from Sony. Big lies. Lion Ryan. And of course, Phil Spencer, well, he's just a massive hypocrite. Because Phil Spencer has been lying about exclusive games, lineups for E3, the most exciting thing for 5 years now. No plans. A couple of weeks ago, no plans to bring Ori 2 to other platforms. 3 weeks later, it's on Switch. Imagine that. Imagine that. And it doesn't stop there. You have Xbox Series L. The standard output is 60 FPS with 30 FPS games on the console. Fucking poor. Sony's not immune from this too. Sony and their whole cross-generation titles lie. Mark Cerny's PS4 Pro running at 8 teraflops. Yeah, look that one up. He said that. PS4 Pro, not PS5. That's fucking, yeah, that's a woo lad. There's you might even go a little bit further back when Mark Cerny talked about how the PlayStation 4 was such advanced in cooling that it would run at room temperature. Yeah, that's a big yikes. I don't know what room you live on. Maybe in the sun, Cerny, but that's about it. And you can go back even further when the Sony execs, I believe it was Kaz Hirai at the time. I don't remember if this was Cerny, but yeah, he basically said that the PlayStation 3, it's very realistic that it could output at 120 FPS. Look that one up too. That one exists. And not only that, it's not just Sony. It's not just Microsoft, but you have those fucking clowns at Nintendo as well. Remember when Reggie would talk all about a virtual console and their plans for the virtual console and all, closer to the release of the Switch? Oh, surprise, we never got a virtual console. Get fucking stuffed. I hate all these people. I hate the clowns that believe and deify these people because you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Well, not really. You're an irrelevant fucking console fanboy who's just an absolute idiot anyway. But speaking of disappointment and lies, well, let's go back to Capcom a little bit, shall we? Because we have potential positive, potential well, there's negative in there too, but we have potential. How's that? Because now Capcom have announced 2 new Monster Hunter games. Monster Hunter Stories 2, which we're not going to talk about at all in this video. It's a Switch exclusive, by the way. And Monster Hunter Rise, also a Switch exclusive. Now, it's coming out on March 26th, 2021. There's going to be big fancy collector's editions and all too, as well as exclusive amiibo that you can only get from, at least here in Europe anyway, you can only get from the Nintendo Store, which is an absolutely terrible idea. But, anyway, what's the deal with the game? It's a little bit more open than what was done before, mainly because it was down to with how the maps were broken up on the portable systems. You would have a very small map, and it would be broken into maybe even 9 smaller chunks, and it was absolutely awful to play with, and absolutely awful in. It was just tedious, basically. It was tedious that way. Now, because the Switch is obviously ever so slightly more powerful than a 3DS, but nowhere near as powerful as real consoles or a PC, well, they've been able to, at least from what they showed, make bigger sections and bigger chunks. It still looks very similar to a 3DS game, maybe at a higher resolution. It doesn't look quite as bad as Monster Hunter when it got ported from the 3DS to the Switch, but it looks a little bit better. But of course, it doesn't look like a real game, let alone a 2021 game. It looks like a Switch game, probably because it is. Now, what they've done, of course, is that Monster Hunter World showed that without technical limitations, the game really comes into its own. So they are trying to do a little bit of that with Monster Hunter Rise. Now, there's added verticality into it as well. You can, again, like Monster Hunter World, you can climb cliffs and all too. It looks a lot more basic in Monster Hunter Rise, as you would expect. But I will say this, because it's on the Switch, the game looks completely lifeless and devoid of soul entirely. I mean, you look at it, it looks like an empty game. Just very, very disappointing in that way. And since it's on Switch, you see the obvious hardware limitations and all as well. Now, I will probably buy it. It'll be a tough sell, or maybe not a tough sell, but it will be a tough play. Because going back, because I mean, I'm going to be properly playing Monster Hunter World in a few weeks. Yeah, I know, after all this time, because I need the 3090. 3090 is just 3090 and a Ryzen 4900X. Yeah, boy, imagine how that is going to destroy Monster Hunter World. Anyway, most importantly, bring on Monster Hunter World 2, or Monster Hunter Universe, or Monster Hunter Galaxy, or whatever they want to call it. And of course, the glorious PC Gaming Master Race and Next Gen. Built for more modern stuff in 2021, 2022, whenever it is. That is what I'm looking forward to. But speaking of things everyone is looking forward to, Cyberpunk 2077 is coming up next. The game is out in 2 months, and CD Projekt Red have finally lifted the lid on the minimum and recommended system requirements. Now, of course, remember there are also recommended requirements which are not maximum, so we'll talk a little bit about what they have put out for the moment. So, Cyberpunk 2077 minimum requirements for PC. We have Windows operating system, Windows 7 or 10 64-bit. Processor is an Intel i5 3570K or an AMD FX 8310, 8GB of RAM, an Nvidia GeForce 780 3GB or a Radeon RX 470. DirectX version 12, 70GB hard drive space or an SSD recommended. And then we have the recommended spec as well. Windows 10 64-bit, Intel Core i7 4790 or AMD Ryzen 3 3200G. Memory is 12GB of RAM and the Nvidia GeForce 1060 6GB or AMD Radeon R9 Fury. DirectX version 12 and 70GB SSD as the recommended one. So there's no hard drive recommendations in there. But let's face it, let's be real, it's 2020. Anyone who's using a mechanical hard drive in their computer should be shamed at this point. It's just ridiculous. Hell, you should be shamed for using it at all in the last 4 years. Even, maybe you could get away with it for mass storage, but anything to do with games, just get them out of here. Now, there's no details on what resolution or settings or frame rate or anything that all of this will provide. But frankly, looking at all the stuff in there, it wouldn't surprise me if the minimum was maybe low settings, and I would say low settings 1080p 30 FPS, and then you're recommended based on what's there. It wouldn't surprise me if you got 1080p, maybe medium settings 60 FPS. I would very much doubt you get high off that. Now, of course, you factor in ray tracing at all, these specs go out the window, because not only do you need an RTX series card, where you're at 2060 or above, or anything in the 30 series, of course there's going to be more stuff on top of that and all as well. You're going to have better need for better CPU, possibly even more RAM, and of course the GPU is the big one there. I will say this though, I'm a little disappointed in this. Now, again, this is only recommended spec, not massive one, and not the maxed out one. And the system requirements are still above what the base consoles are. For example, the base PS4 and Xbox One are laughably bad when it comes to CPU. They're like less than a standard first generation i7. If you many people had an i7 2600K like I did for many years, and that just destroys even the Xbox One X CPU by leagues. So yeah, there's a big difference there from the CPU front or the GPU front as well. This is a minimum requirement of a 780. And both of these consoles have approximately a GTX 660. So there is a decent kind of jump in there over the minimum. But of course, the game is going to look and run like absolute ass on consoles anyway, especially the base ones. So we can see how it goes. But I am a little bit, I won't say disappointing, because I do think the game will visually look great at higher settings. And of course, you will need stuff to run it there too. I just kind of expected the recommended to be a little bit higher. 1066 gigabyte is kind of laughable, but again, we don't know how optimized it is, but it's just not a powerful GPU anyway. So I don't know. I don't care. I'll have a 3090. I'll be running that bad boy completely maxed out with a high resolution, high frame rate, and RTX on because I can. But yeah, it is what it is. We'll see how it is in 2 months anyway. So that's the important one. But hey, now that that's out of the way, we can get to our best little segment that everyone loves for every obvious reason. Q, what's going on? What's up? What's going down? What's the 411? What are you playing? Well, I recently reinstalled Gears 5. Played a lot of Horde. There was a 6x experience boost for its 1-year anniversary and all as well. I got a lot of stuff leveled up and a lot of gameplay and all in there, especially because they cut down to Horde Frenzy, so instead of 50 waves you could get in 12 and still get big bonuses and whatnot. Couple that with 6x XP and the bunch of changes I had to learn to their overhauled system for leveling stuff up and acquiring new characters and all as well, and skins and cards and all. It was a little bit messy, but I picked up all of it, and that's the main thing. I got a lot of stuff done. However, I just can't be bothered at this point. I just uninstalled it and I'm over my little foray back into it. But of course, there's also some streaming and some retro RPGs and stuff going on as well. So I have been playing Mystic Quest Legend. I've streamed it twice. I hopefully will be streaming it again later tonight. And I will probably be doing a more longer, detailed and intensive stream this time. It's kind of a beginner's RPG. So the first couple of times I just wanted to ease people into it. And this time it's going to be a little bit more. We've picked up Steam. We've covered the basics. We've done it, I guess you could call it tutorial stuff. And we're going to move on to more advanced stuff. I'm going to make some proper progress in there as well. Of course, there will be more new retro RPGs and even some just RPGs in general coming to the streams and all soon, because I do have my new laptop, which is excellent for the streaming box. I've worked with that, and Jesus Christ, it is so good. I'm so happy about it. It's working so well in so many different ways. That is brilliant. I was a little bit hesitant about it first just because I spent so much money on it when I felt like I shouldn't have, but seeing the results, I'm just so happy with it. I'm really positive when it comes to that. I also reinstalled Fallout 4 earlier today. I played it for a couple of hours, and well, it's not, I can't say it's not bad. It's difficult to get back into. It feels dated, even if I can play it completely maxed out with a solid 60 FPS. I remember the game being uncapped. I couldn't find a VSync setting or any type of frame limiter in there, so maybe they patched it in or something along those lines. But I played it for a couple of hours. I was continuing the Nuka World DLC, which I had never finished. I still didn't finish it now, but frankly, I'm just done with it. I uninstalled it and got it back out. That was a great download of like 94 gigabytes, but I got the space and I got unlimited internet, so it didn't really take me too long. Other than that as well, on the 22nd, this upcoming Tuesday as well, we have Halo 3 ODST, so I'm looking forward to that coming to the Master Chief Collection on PC, where it will look the best, run the best, play the best, because it's PC. So that's going to be nice as well. And then they can finally move on to Halo 4. And then, of course, because Halo Infinite is infinitely delayed because it's absolutely shite, they have plenty of time in the meantime between finishing the Master Chief Collection after Halo 4 and before Halo Infinite comes out. Well, they can port over Halo 5. And that, of course, is the big important one. Imagine the life that Halo 5 would get renewed and boosted, being ported to PC, where people could play the game better in every single way and for free online. I know I'd be all over Warzone all day, every day, if it was to come to PC, at least anyway. So, also I will say, coming up very, very soon, within the next, I think it's 2 weeks or so, I don't remember the exact date, I'd have to double check it as well, Mafia Definitive Edition. I will be playing that. It did come. My laptop came with a two free codes for games. Crusaders Kings free, which I don't really care about. I redeemed it anyway. I'll give it a try eventually. But it also came with Mafia Definitive Edition, which I'm very happy about because I was going to buy Mafia Definitive Edition anyway. So since it's out at some point this month, and my 3090 and Mafia Definitive Edition, that was nice. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be beast. It looks really, really good, like a proper, true, good quality remake. So, that'll all be nice to do and great for my 3090, but that's it for the meantime. So, that is it. We have come to the conclusion of our 73rd Quack Experimental Podcast episode. Of course, as always, feel free to slide on into the comment section below. Anything you need to leave in there, thoughts, comments, questions, opinions, feels, butter, praise, salt, whatever. That's why it's there, and I look forward to seeing it all. Anyway, of course, in the meantime, why not head on over, hit the subscribe button, and even ring that little notification bell. And yes, I know. You do want to be one of the first people to get one of these little, amazing, high-quality, high-production episodes every week. So, why would you not want to get that notification? Anyway, moving away from that, of course, that is it from your boy here. And remember, winners don't play switchboards.